The Star and D'Amico Show brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. Need blanks for your next event or club? Check out cheapesttshirts.ca. No minimum order, free shipping over $350. Same day shipping on lots of items. Affordable, Canadian, ready to print your design. Brought to you by Catherine Prince at Remax Platine, your Montreal real estate connection. Call her at 514-702-2474 or email Catherine with a K, Catherine at catherineprince.com. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest with confidence, Catherine Prince, your key to the city's property market. Brought to you by McLean's Pub. Looking for a lively downtown spot with great food and atmosphere? Come to McLean's Pub on Peel Street. Classic pub eats, plenty of beer, and all the sports on all the screens. Grab your friends and make McLean's your go-to place tonight. Brought to you by Cabletel, your full-service telecom partner for business and home. From structured cabling and phone systems to Wi-Fi, cameras, and alarms, Cabletel keeps you connected, secure, and performing at your best. Your partner for the future. It's Cabletel.
Hi, I'm Audrey. My parents, Chuck and Evie, are too busy caring about your pets, so I'm here to remind you to check out a family-owned store, Little Bear Pet Supplies. Can you believe it's been there for almost 30 years? They know that your pets are family too, and they've made shopping easy this holiday season, with fun toys and healthy treats that you won't find everywhere. They even offer fast home delivery, and my brother and I sometimes help too. Please shop local this year.
Thanks, Audrey. Come visit us at 4152 St. Catherine Street West, littlebearonline.com, or find us on the Uber Eats app.
Happy New Year. Welcome to the first episode of 2026. There's Marco D'Amico with RG Media. I'm Sean Starr. Thank you so much again for your unwavering loyalty to the program, for all your likes, all your viewership, all the subscribers to the channel, and as even the haters. We'll even say a shout out to the haters on this New Year's Day. Marco, good to see you, and Happy New Year, young man.
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm a little tired. It's okay.
Yeah.
But this is the rigors of the holidays for a young Italian man is lots of food, lots of drink, little sleep. I'm just getting myself ready for fatherhood.
Exactly. And you're going to need that sleep. And speaking of food, proud to of course, keep with us Morella's Steakhouse, the premier stop for steak and seafood in the South Shore of Montreal, in Ganawage on Highway 132. Marco, it's 15 minutes from Montreal. It's right over the Mercier Bridge on Highway 132. You keep going, and it's 2 minutes off the bridge. And of course, one of the best parts to go with the premium steaks and the seafood and the delicious wines and cocktails and unbelievable service is there is no tax on the bill. Whatever your bill is, that's your bill. And we always tip generously. So big shout out to our friends at Morella's Steakhouse. Reserve now at morellassteakhouse.ca, Mr. D'Amico.
I don't want to. I really do.
Yeah, we'll be there. And I have a feeling we'll be there. And I think with you guys as well, we got some big things coming up. Speaking of big things, Mr. D'Amico, we are here to react to what today? We are here to react to this unbelievable news. I mean, unbelievable probably is a little over dramatic, Marco. You had a feeling, you alluded to this on the last live stream we did on our channel. Montreal Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki, it's now official. He's a member of Team Canada, becoming one of the newcomers that wasn't there from the Four Nations tournament. Obviously, a 19-year-old phenom out of North BC, in Northern Vancouver, I should say, Macklin Celebrini, along with Nick Suzuki, among the 19 players named to Canada's finalized 25-man hockey roster on Wednesday, ahead of the NHL's return to the games. So Suzuki is there, along with Bo Horvat and Tom Wilson, as we highlight some of the newcomers. But your initial reaction here as Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki gets the distinguished honor of playing for our men's national team.
I thought he was going to get in. I just, again, like we've talked about this, 97 points in the calendar year of 2025, third best Canadian scorer in that time.
Right.
Which says everything you need to know. The other two are basically first and second line centers on this team right now. So you have the first, second, and third scorers that were, born and raised in Canada. 1, 2, 3 is the centers on this team. Obviously, this is subject to change. A lot of things can change. This is probably not what the lineup is going to look like per se, so not to worry. But the names are there. Am I surprised? No. And I think one of the things I really liked from the press conference, Doug Armstrong broke down some of the reasons why they really like Nick Suzuki. And I'll read out a quote for you guys, and
Yep.
I think this speaks volumes. He goes, "The pressure that goes into playing in Canada is one level, which is fair. I think sometimes we take this for granted, but it's fair. So the pressure that goes into playing for Canada is one level. The pressure that goes into playing in Montreal is another level.
Hmm.
And the pressure of being the captain of the Montreal Canadiens is on a different level." And I like that he brought that up because we sometimes forget about this when we cover this team, is just like how much you have to compartmentalize and internalize in this market. Not saying the market is difficult, it's difficult when you're not winning and you're not giving your all, but it's also one of the most rewarding markets to be in. So there is always constant pressure. And I don't think like Nick Suzuki over a long period of time has ever put the Canadians or their fans for that matter in a situation where they felt he let them down long term. It's always Nick Suzuki has always just gotten better, gotten better, gotten better. And I think being able to play under that pressure as if you were playing in a no market in a smaller market, that speaks volumes to the character of the player. So that's one aspect. Let me read you the other quote that I really enjoyed. Where'd you go? I'll find it. I'll find it. But one of the other ones is here we are. So there's been a lot of discussions, and this also kind of goes into Nick Suzuki's Selke candidacy, but I'd like to bring this up. So he was asked about Nick Suzuki, and again, Doug Armstrong responded, "Well, he's not a major part of the Canadians' penalty kill this year, and part of it in discussing with Canadians management, part of it is due to them managing his time on ice because he does play so many minutes. But we know that he can kill. We know that he can play on the power play. We know he's a 200-foot player. We wanted to provide John Cooper with the most amount of with players that have the most amount of tools. So again, the versatility of Nick Suzuki and his ability to play under pressure, and obviously the offensive output that we've seen over the last year, shoehorned him into this team despite the existing tabooism of missing out or skipping out on the world championships in the summer. That to me says everything you need to know about Nick Suzuki in the year 2025.
How much of this, to your point, Nick Suzuki on the Canadians, let's just point this out, right? Plays a shade under 21 minutes a night on average, leads the team with 44 points. He's got 13 goals and 31 assists. How much of this roster and its complexion is based off of not necessarily an all-star team, but you look at the lineup, it's a freaking all-star team, but it's more about rounding out the team. Goal prevention matters. Situational hockey matters. That definitely had to play into Nick Suzuki's strength and then eventually being named to the
Mhm.
25-man roster, didn't it?
I think so. I think, one of the things that Nick Suzuki does really well is obviously thrive under pressure. Yes, he's able to play in tight spaces. He also makes a lot of space for his teammates, and you could use him in any situation. And the same applies to a guy like Bo Horvat, for example. But I think what allowed Bo Horvat and Nick Suzuki to make this team versus the reigning Conn Smythe Trophy winner in Sam Bennett, for example, is the fact that they are better at the defensive side of the puck than Bennett is. And they're both currently and always have been better offensively than Bennett as well. So to me, that was the biggest shock for everybody, is that Sam Bennett wasn't on this team.
Yeah.
But the way that Nick Suzuki and Bo Horvat have been playing over the last year, it's very, very hard to say it to see it any other way. They are clearly better players. The only player that I think is there as a strictly utility role per player type thing is Anthony Cirelli.
Right.
And we know this for a fact.
A
And
John
I'll
Cooper
let you guys
guy. Yeah.
yeah. John Cooper pushed for Anthony Cirelli. It
Yep.
basically came down to Sam Bennett or Anthony Cirelli, and Cirelli won out. It's as simple as it is. And from a points perspective, Cirelli's not where he was last year. Understandable. That's fine. They wouldn't use him in an offensive role. He would basically just be the fourth line center. Where I very much like this roster, though, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sam Reinhart's a converted center. Let's call it 5, 6,
Yeah.
7, 8, 9, 10 natural centers on this team.
Crazy.
Sorry, 9 natural centers on this team.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be so much versatility in this lineup. Heck, Nick Suzuki could end up on the wing for all we know, right? Braden Point may actually come down to be the 3C if that's the case. I personally would prefer Braden Point on the wing given his abilities, but whatever happens, happens. But it gives them that ability, right? Like Mark Stone is probably going to be used in more of a two-way role. Tom Wilson's probably going to be more of a fourth line crash and banger. Brad Marchand is probably going to be playing, middle six, depending on what they decide to do. There's so many options. And I think that Nick Suzuki fits into exactly that, giving them elite options. And so I think it was the right call. I think the only legitimate player that missed out here where you could really say, man, like the way he was playing, he deserved to be here. Actually, there's probably two,
Yeah.
is Mark Scheifele and
And
especially Connor Bedard.
exactly. I thought your the first name was going to be Connor Bedard, but the injury obviously.
That's it.
Macklin Celebrini, the 19-year-old kid from Northern Vancouver, is on this team. I thought it was a compliment to your point about how many natural centers are on this national roster that Nick Suzuki right now, as you can see the graphic on the screen. If you're listening to us, we have the projected lineup where Nick Suzuki is down the middle between Hagel and Mitch Marner. If this were to be the first game for Team Canada, once this tournament gets going, um,
Mhm.
what's your initial thoughts to how this looks in terms of Nick Suzuki's role with Hagel and Marner?
Well, okay, and I know that because of the Toronto Maple Leafs stigma, some of our listeners probably won't want to give Mitch Marner the time of day with this explanation, but I really do want
Yep.
to be clear here. Mitch Marner is probably one of the better two-way wingers, if not the best two-way winger in the NHL. And anybody who watches the Toronto Maple Leafs will know that they dearly miss his impact at both ends of the ice. A
Yep.
Nick Suzuki Mitch Marner combination would
Woof.
send chills down
Woof.
Canada's spine as a third line. And you complete that with whoever you want. Hagel, Marchand, like even Celebrini if you want. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter because if you and we kind of know this for a fact, but Team Canada is going to go with like a set duo, right? I think it's
Yes.
pretty much set in stone that Crosby and McKinnon are going to play together. I would love to see an all Nova Scotia line, but I don't. I'm not the
Oh
coach.
wow, that'd be
I'm
fun.
not the coach. That
Maybe in
would
a
be like,
blowout game. Maybe when they open up against Czechia on February 12th.
hey,
Maybe it's yeah. I
Czechia
mean,
might not be the blowout game you
I
think
agree.
it's going to
I
be.
know.
Be careful what you wish for with Czechia
Jakub
because
Dobeš, maybe.
they
Yeah.
got good players there.
Yeah.
I would say, if they're going to go with the duo, I think finding a player that's going to be able to match up well with McDavid is going to be important.
Yep.
They couldn't really do that last tournament. Like Mitch Marner, I think kind of by the end of the tournament started finding his groove with McDavid. Especially that final game. But this is going to be what, an 18 tournament, an 8 game tournament. Sorry, like
Yeah.
8 9
Yeah.
game tournament. So it's going to be you're going to have a larger sample size, and I think that you're going to be messing around with the lines a little bit in accordance. So there are options there. I just part of me is it's a shame that you probably can't have both Bo Horvat and Nick Suzuki on the same line because
Hmm.
that would be the recipe for probably one of the most responsible offensive lines you're going to come across, right? Like we know that the McKinnon line is going to go balls to the wall offense. Yeah, they won't
Yep.
hurt you defensively. But if you want guys that have made a career out of shutting down the opposition and creating offense at the same time, there are no two better players on this roster right now than Bo Horvat and Nick Suzuki and being able to do that at 5-on-5. They've just made a career out of this. So I like what I see here. And I will add one little element. I think that Tom Wilson is going to be far more valuable to this team than we give him credit for.
I don't
And
disagree with that. I'm a big
I
fan of
don't
him.
I'm not a huge like I'm not a huge fan of some of the stuff he gets away with. I think that that's a league problem, not necessarily a him problem. But the way that he plays, especially if as the Italians continue to make the arena dimensions smaller and smaller by the day, he's just going to become
Yeah.
more and more important. So I definitely do like that combination. Um, yeah, I think the only thing that grinds me is Connor Bedard, simply because just elite scorer, elite shooter, and you want the most exciting players. But you talked about it at the top of the episode. This isn't an all-star team. This isn't NHL 26 taking the best overall players and just slapping the top 12 on the team. This is
Hmm.
the best team. And if we go back and look at the best teams that have won gold, bottom six players haven't necessarily been the best scorers. It's who fits the role the best. And I just feel like there is enough overall depth in the top nine right now where the completeness of the team will allow them to live without Connor Bedard in that situation, though. And again, I will be clear, due to his injury. Had he continued to play in the month of December and continued to perform the way that Macklin Celebrini did, I think we'd be having a different conversation. The fact that he's going to come in cold to the because Blackhawks still don't know when he's coming back. It's still
Hmm.
undecided. So that
Hmm.
could be 2, 3 weeks down the line. 4 weeks from now, that's it. Season stopped. We're basically at February and they're off to Milan, right? So like that's a really quick turnaround. You don't want to take that risk. I get it. And made
Yeah.
it easy. That being said, if Connor Bedard plays for Team Canada, it'll always be on the wing.
The National Hockey League went to 5 straight Olympics from 98 through 2014. We know, and then, financial reasons prevented them from getting there in 2018. Obviously, the highlight, Canada wins gold in this country in Vancouver back in 2010, the golden goal, Sidney Crosby. But yet, Crosby and Doughty are the only two players who were members of that 2014 Olympic gold medal winning team. The only two guys
Wow.
with Olympic experience on this 25-man roster. I'm not going to ask you so much about how much experience matters in this in a true best on best tournament. No disrespect to Russia, but when you look at this, there's a lot of leaders on this team spread throughout the roster, including on defense, where they more or less, Marco, ran back the Four Nations defensive brigade. How does
Yeah.
Canada shape up defensively? And then we'll talk about goaltending too in this episode, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
defensively, obviously led by the great Cale Makar. How does Canada stack up once this tournament gets going February 12th against Czechia?
I will say this right off the hop. I think the best defensive unit is probably going to be the US.
Okay.
I do believe that. But I think that this is still a defensive they still have options on this defense that I feel will help them be able to keep up. And what we see here is, Cale Makar, Faye Theodore, Josh Morrissey, they could definitely bring the offense. Definitely. Wouldn't Evan Bouchard maybe have been a better bet in some of these cases? Potentially.
Right.
Potentially, but then you got to live with all the defensive mistakes that he makes, and you can't play rope a dope in the Olympics.
Mhm.
Teams are too good for that. So I understand why they thought, let's play it safe. And if you look at the right side of their defense, or at least the righties, Cale Makar, offensive, fantastic. Shea Theodore is a lefty that plays right. That's a different story. Colton Pareko, just your prototypical shutdown, mean
Yeah.
bottom pair defenseman, and Drew Doughty in and out as need be, right? I like that. The one player I feel is undervalued by fans is Thomas Harley.
Yeah.
I think Thomas Harley is going to is well, for those that don't watch Dallas, of course, like for those of us that watch this channel that do watch Western Conference teams, you know what I'm talking about with Thomas Harley. I think he would be a phenomenal replacement in case anything happens to one of these defensemen from an offensive perspective. I think he's great. I think he's a little I think he plays a little bit in Miro Heiskanen's shadow in Dallas, and that's why he doesn't express himself as offensively as he could. But I've always been a fan of Harley, dating back to his Mississauga days in the OHL. Really intelligent players, smooth skater. So a guy to watch. And he, like, I think they only, I could be wrong. Remind me of this, but I think they only carried 7 defensemen to the Four Nations. Or am I missing someone?
No, that sounds right to me.
Because Thomas
Um,
Harley was called in once Cale Makar was injured.
exactly. I was going to bring up how good he looked when you finally saw him.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's fantastic that they have these 8.
Yeah.
I know the thought on everybody's mind was Matthew Schaefer, and as much as what he's doing right now is ridiculous, Matthew Schaefer's game is taking a smidgen of a dip, which is absolutely normal given his age, the position he plays, and how much hockey he has played or lack thereof over the last 18 months.
Mhm.
So I think it's completely normal. What I will say is he'll probably be on the injured reserve list, and he will be a prime feature on Canada's top pair in 2030, without question. But I just felt like in a tournament like this, youth is great, but I just feel like you need to go with a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
And I like, there's a lot of hype because what he's doing at a young age is so rare, but there are more deserving defensemen that could play more of a well-rounded game that aren't, that are peaking, that are on in the right direction constantly. And I feel like it would be asking a lot of an 18-year-old that didn't play for most of last season to
Right.
come in and play on an Olympic situation with that kind of pressure. It would be a lot.
There are some changes from the Four Nations. The Four Nations
Yeah.
forwards that did not make the Canadian cut for the Olympics in Milano: Sam Bennett, Travis Konechny, and Seth Jarvis. Now, as you alluded to earlier, once this tournament opens up on February 12th against Czechia, they are in fact keeping their Four Nations defensive core intact.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
are switching out two of the three goaltenders. Washington's Logan Thompson and Darcy Kemper will join Jordan Binnington of the St. Louis Blues as they replace Aiden Hill of the Vegas Golden Knights and, of course, the Canadiens' own Sam Montembeault. Your breakdown of how Canada's goaltending depth will shake out at this best on best coming up February 12th.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really kind of circled my brain was Jordan Binnington, really?
Yeah, yeah.
And, to his credit, Binnington has kind of turned his season around to a degree. But let's be honest here. The hottest goaltender in the NHL right now is Mackenzie Blackwood, and he's not there. And goaltending, a lot of it speaks to reputation. Logan Thompson was nowhere near the selection process last year for the Four Nations. And a lot of people gave Canada heat for it up until the finals.
Right.
I think Logan Thompson, this is his net. This is his net to lose, right?
Mm.
I think that he should be the number one based on the way that he's playing. I think that Binnington's going to get a shot to be a backup to play one of those games because there's gonna be a round robin, right? You're gonna play both of your goalies. See, like you would see in the World Juniors, like we saw with Carter George and Ivankovic as well. So like, you're going to have to test them out. But I I just feel like in these tournaments you have to go with the hot hand. And I know that the excuse on Blackwood is that he plays for Colorado, but he's one of the bigger reasons as well why Colorado does so well. I mean, a 2.15 goals against, a 924 save percentage. And last year he played 37 games and he had a 2.33 save percentage and a 2.33 goals against and a 913 save percentage. Like
Right.
we now have 52 games of sample size from Mackenzie Blackwood, and he played relatively well. The only stain on his game in the last calendar year, and I think this is probably what did him in, was the 7 games series where he was an 892 in the playoffs last spring. And I think that's probably what maybe didn't help him. And again, like we heard about it with Nick Suzuki, right? Playing under pressure.
Mhm.
So there, I don't pretend to know the selection process. I'm going to give back end information once we're done with the goalies about some of the things I do know. But when it comes to goaltenders, like that's not my area of expertise. I don't evaluate, but I do think that if Jordan Binnington, if they go back to Jordan Binnington as the number one right off the bat with the season he's having versus what Logan Thompson is doing, I think there's going to be a little bit of disappointment.
I think Habs Nation should be proud. Their captain named, Horvat and Suzuki both got there. And a big reason
Yeah.
why Sam Bennett did not, despite being a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. And then, of course, to me, Marco, I choose to put a lot of value in Nick Suzuki looking over to his right, looking over to his left, seeing guys like Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney
Mhm.
Crosby, leaders, Stanley Cup winners, future Hall of Famers. And then just being in that environment, soaking it all in. I think it'll be nothing but great stuff for the captain of this team and the future for the Montreal Canadiens. So I think it's a proud moment. I think Habs Nation should be thrilled that their captain will be there, and I think playing a role, not just a bench warmer, not a black ace. He's going to play a role, and he's going to be there. I think it's a great day.
Yeah, I think so too. And from my conversations, I remember talking to John Cooper about this when Tampa Bay was in town, and he really took the time to highlight Nick Suzuki and how good Nick Suzuki is, and how much of a strong franchise kind of impact that he has,
Yeah,
his versatility. Like a lot of what Doug Armstrong said yesterday, or I heard a lot of it from John Cooper, and it's really you can kind of see, right? Like John Cooper went to bat for Sorelli, we know this,
yeah,
but the entire brass of Hockey Canada did their homework. Do you know how often these guys were at the Bell Center?
they were there quite a
Like
bit.
I was crossing either Julien Brisebois or Kyle Dubas or Doug Armstrong,
Hmm.
or Don Sweeney. Like it felt like every other game there was one of them there, if not multiple. And so they did their homework. They even took the time to call the Canadians and ask them why Nick Suzuki is not being used on the penalty kill.
Sure.
I mean, that's a that's a real good question, because I'd like to ask that question, because in my opinion, the Suzuki should be getting more than an average of 47 seconds on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
It's one of the main criteria to winning a Selkie.
Yeah.
And if you want him to win the damn thing, this is the year. Play him more in the penalty kill. If Canada can do it, so can you.
Yeah.
So that's just some of the elements. But I would also say they John Cooper was impressed by Nick Suzuki dating back to the 2021 Stanley Cup final, and has
Yeah.
had him on his eye ever since, and was disappointed that he did not make the team for the Four Nations, and was really happy to see how his game took off after. So just so you guys know, the Canadians have kept a significantly
Hmm.
close eye on Suzuki. This is not by chance.
Marco D'Amico, happy New Year, and
Happy New Year.
looking forward to busting through into the second half of the NHL season as the drive for back-to-back playoff appearances is on in a big way for the Montreal Canadiens. Enjoy the family, enjoy the break, Marco, and we'll see you soon.
We never have a break. But
True.
also, the drive for the playoffs, we also have the drive for 20,000 subscribers, and that starts with you. So we want to make 2026 a bang year. We want to get to 20,000 subscribers. We're on a crazy run in 2025. We hope to get there with all of you, and be able to have this kind of video in 2027 celebrating the good news.
Well said. I echo that. And we'll see you for our next live show as the Montreal Canadiens marathon 7-game road trip is in the process of winding up. And we'll see you live on the channel coming up. Thanks, Marco.
Thank you, everybody.